It's a new week, it's a new day, new panel, new host. My name is Moses and welcome to the Football Tribe. As of yesterday, 7 p.m., the transfer window came to a close in England, as you all know. And there was, as usual with England, there was a bit of drama, and we'll get right into it with Chelsea and the Courtois saga, where you have the goalkeeper refusing to come to training, refusing to meet with the club's representatives to force a deal through, and it went his way because he went to Real Madrid and they got Kovacic in return. So we come right into our panels, and introduce yourself and tell me, what do you think about Courtois' behavior, considering he's called a professional player, and I mean he's a role model to the younger players who are coming up. What do you have to say for that?
First of all, thank you. I'm Francis Mokundi, host of the Sports Week show on Channel FM on 3.1. Back to your topic that Courtois forced a deal to move to Real Madrid. It depends on how a player wants it. If he felt that he wasn't feeling comfortable at Chelsea Football Club, then maybe he wanted to move. Now raises back the question of professionalism. Yes, he might have not have done it in a professional manner, but it all depends on how he was treated also back at Chelsea. Did he give a transfer request and the guys refused? Did he talk to the right people and they refused to listen to him? Did he see it as the best option? Also, not remembering that these players are families. We have heard a lot of times that families might force a transfer. That maybe the wife wants to stay in Spain.
Yeah,
Real Madrid.
I mean, there are rumors actually that De Gea's girlfriend was telling him, come to Madrid. If you don't come, there are even rumors that he would be denied certain benefits. We won't talk about that in depth, but
there are certain things
there are some things more powerful than passion.
That push up players move, but for me, maybe he would have done it differently. Maybe he said it even in his interview that he had wished to play for Real Madrid even while at Atletico Madrid. So for him playing for Real Madrid, maybe it's his dream move, and he got it in the final end.
Okay, and looking at it this way and comparing it with another goalkeeper, David De Gea, who we all know was quoted by Real Madrid back in 2015. And when you compare the two behaviors and how they took this experience, what do you have to say about that?
I think De Gea was so professional in it. You see, Madrid is his hometown. He played for a year and his wife is in Madrid, so this is where he belongs. And like Courtois, who Chelsea has given him everything he wants, they had to sell Petr Cech to Arsenal to guarantee him that starting spot. So De Gea was so professional in it. Courtois needs some maturity is required. De Gea was way much younger back then compared to Courtois at the moment.
So and we all know how Real Madrid treat their players. You know, he could be forcing a move to a club where they would reject him at some point. I mean, they rejected Iker Casillas. They booed Ronaldo, arguably the best player in the world, many a time. So who is Courtois not to receive the same treatment? I mean, is it really worth going to a club where you make the slightest mistake and you're suddenly the most hated man in the city?
It's coming soon against Barcelona.
That particular matches, I would agree with Andrew that that will be his biggest stage and that might be his biggest flop. So again, to what one mistake booed by the rest of the Bernabeu crowd, it will be tough for him.
And still sticking with transfers, you know, there have been two crazy things that happened. The Courtois saga, and then on this other end of the spectrum, you've got Tottenham. For the first time since 2003, when the summer transfer was actually introduced, they didn't buy a single person, you know, and what does it say about a club and its ambitions? They have a new stadium, but it's still the same number of players. There are rumors that they want to sell Victor Wanyama to Roma, yet they still have difficulties in midfield. You know, they have injuries here and there. What do you have to say about that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, a lot. I really have a lot to say as an Arsenal fan. That first, I'm
sure you're happy.
I'm very happy that they did sign in. But to the core business, building a new stadium is expensive.
Yeah.
Arsenal did it and suffered for it.
Actually, Tottenham, their first budget, their initial budget was around 300 or 400 million, but in less than a year it moved to 800 million. So maybe that could have affected.
Building a stadium is very difficult, and that might have affected the board from deciding not to give the coach money to move to sell players. But again, you have said it, they have a string of injuries that might affect them in the very run. For me, as an Arsenal fan, I would very want them to suffer. Well, love them to suffer, yes, for me.
Okay, and looking at it this way, could it be that they feel they don't really need to add anything? Because in essence, their attacking is wonderful, their defending is beautiful. You've got Vertonghen, you've got Adavel, you've got Danny Rose on one end, who's actually fighting it out with a kid nearly half his age. Do they really need to bring in anyone?
I think it's not necessary for them to bring in anyone. They finished in the top 4 last season, despite Arsenal and Chelsea making a few signings. These are teams that have a new coach. So Spurs have the same team, and that is one striker every season, Harry Kane.
Who actually showed his prowess at the World Cup. You know, he beat everyone else to top the...
It's penalties.
Yes, because, you know, it's debatable.
It's debatable.
Depending on whether you love him or hate him.
Let's talk about the API. It's so good in the API. So Spurs didn't need to sign anyone. What they need to do is keep Wanyama, keep Danny Rose, maintain the same team they had last season. Let the boys fight out with the other
young kids.
Yeah.
Good. And that's what we have for now. We'll be going for a short break. And as we go for a short break, I'd like to wish Mike, the usual host, all the best because he had to attend his god's bath. Thank you. We'll be back in a few minutes.
It's good.
You approached a beautiful woman, you proposed to her, she said no, and a week later she invites you to a wedding. That's what the Manchester United Leicester City game is all about. They approached Harry Maguire, he said no, the coach said no, and they are meeting a couple of days later. And it's very interesting, and we want to dig right into it and see, what do you think will happen in this particular game? Will there be any personal vendettas? Will Mourinho look to embarrass Claude Puel and the Leicester City team for embarrassing him in the transfer window?
I would say, first of all, you have to understand in the transfer season is that it's a willing buyer, willing seller. If the one team decides no, you're not good for us, or the other team decides that we aren't going to sell this guy, then it doesn't matter. All that matters is how these two teams will fight it out in the field. Will Mourinho outclass Puel, or Puel will outclass Mourinho? For me, I would say the decision that these two teams that decided to see why would I want to sell an individual that I have seen can work in the World Cup and he's the best defender I might be having.
Considering they've already lost Mahrez.
They have already, yes, why would I want to lose another top class footballer in my squad? Puel made a good decision not to let Maguire leave the club.
And what does it say about Manchester United, considering playing for Manchester United is probably every English boy's dream, and you have Harry Maguire saying no to them? I mean, does this diminish the prestige of that is Manchester United? Because he's not the only one. A number of signings they tried with Diego Godin, he said no. Someone else said no. Yoramina chose Everton over Manchester United. Kovacic chose Chelsea over Manchester United. What does it say about Manchester United? And is it because of Mourinho? Is this why players don't want to come in? Because they've only brought in Fred as a starting player. You know, Lee Grant was brought in so that to provide cover for the goalkeeper and give Pereira enough time to go out and get experience. And Dalot is still a young guy. I mean, he has maybe another 2 or 3 seasons before he's integrated into the first team. What do you have to say about all this?
Just a quick question on the same. Does it mean that Madrid is a small club because they get didn't force a move to them?
Good question.
They won the Champions League titles after they
without him
to join the team. Without him.
So probably the guy made the poor decision.
So Maguire might end up regretting himself. You never know. So United is still the same big team it used to be, and it will continue being the same big team. Leicester is just a small team that was lucky enough to win the APL.
There you have it. There you have it. Before we move on, what are your predictions for this game? I mean, you're an Arsenal fan, so I'm sure you're hoping Leicester pull a surprise and probably put in 2-3 goals, maybe 8.
8. Specific. Okay, right. I would say it's the first match of the season. Everyone would say they are not that good. No one really has played a very competitive match compared to the rest. Manchester United played against Bayern in the last day.
World Cup.
There are guys coming back from the World Cup, meaning maybe certain teams will not have full squads. For me, first game I would predict a draw for Manchester United at the Trafford.
Prove him wrong.
The last time we faced Leicester City, we drew 2-2, which was disappointing to concede in the 92nd, 93rd
Yeah, I
minute.
remember.
So today, it's revenge.
Early
The
goals.
first game, it's revenge. 4-5.
Hey,
4-5.
4-5 in the first
Doesn't
game.
matter, yeah.
4-5.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's actually a statement. You know,
last
when you,
season we started with 4G, 4G, 4G
yeah,
network.
and then we
We
went
are
to
redoing it
2G.
now. We are redoing
And
it
at
now.
some point, we lost the phone.
Actually, Leicester was among the teams that suffered.
Okay, and moving on to Saturday, where you have an interesting lineup between Newcastle United and Tottenham Hotspurs. Both teams had a relatively quiet transfer period this time round. One with Newcastle, you had Mike Ashley, who was holding on to the money and didn't want to support Rafa Benitez. On the other hand, you had Tottenham, who many argue it was because the stadium fees went overboard and they couldn't actually go in. Others say it was because their squad was good enough. What do you think about this game?
As an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't say. My opinions would be valid as an Arsenal fan, but let me put that at the very end. But starting off, I would say they played out last season. The first match between their first match was again. They faced each other. They faced each other. Newcastle was a new kid in the league and wasn't shoved. Didn't let big teams show them around and proved themselves. But he did prove himself that he's a man that can be able to fit the Premier League. Considering what we have discussed on that these two teams haven't been given the appropriate money to beef up their squads, maybe the coaches feel they are confident enough that they might have a good squad with them for that particular match. For me, I would say two teams that not really very many people look at them. There might be no pressure for them on the first game, but for me, I would say Tottenham might take the day.
And looking at it this way, Tottenham's most of their players went through to the latter stages of the World Cup. Will they suffer from fatigue, considering they had defenders who went through to the latter stages? The goalkeeper won the World Cup. A number of midfielders, their strikers were in the semi-finals. What do you think will happen to Tottenham? Considering I think Newcastle had a relatively quiet summer pre-season, they were together most of the time. They were able to gel even more under the coach. Do you really think Tottenham will be able to pull one over Rafa Benitez?
If it's about gelling, I think Tottenham is way good at it because they have been together for 2-3 seasons. About fatigue, City had players who played on Sunday against Chelsea were in the World Cup later stages. So it's no issue. They are professionals. You started by professionals with the Courtois issue. So you have to be a professional.
But let's not use Courtois as a reference.
Doesn't matter what game you are playing. You see, you won the World Cup. It was the World Cup. You won the World Cup. You are in the third, fourth playoff. So give your best for your club.
Okay, and moving on to another new manager who recently joined, Sarri at Chelsea. They are playing Huddersfield. Do you really think he'll be able to win, considering they had a disappointing start against Manchester City? They lost Courtois. There are rumors that Hazard wants to go. There are all these things going on. What do you think will happen?
Mentioning Huddersfield gives me a lot of goosebumps. You see,
They have shown you a lot of things last season.
United 2-1, so I think they are going to beat Chelsea. Chelsea, Sarri will get some good outcome in the APL, honestly.
And there's no 3-4-3.
That's what I wanted to
You see,
say.
he has to change from 3-4-3 to his normal formation. Marcos Alonso is no longer a left back; he's a wing back.
He cannot
play,
move
he
back.
can't
He
play
can't
as a
move
left
back.
back,
Yes.
So it will be hard for him. The first maybe 4-5 games will be hard for Sarri and the Chelsea team.
And all you need to be relegated is actually losing. Like how they started with Mourinho's third season. They started with that 4 or 5 games.
So you're already
No, but
bottom of the
relegation.
table. You are
This league is
struggling
really
in
cruel.
January. December, people get injuries.
So, do you
January.
really think Sarri was the right fit, considering he's never won anything? He's had less than 10 years experience in top flight football. He's been coaching smaller clubs. Was it just a knee-jerk reaction that we're used to with Abramovich, where he doesn't like this particular manager? He goes and looks for another more beautiful woman to...
That's one thing that Chelsea have failed for the past season. They have signed more than 7
World-class managers.
world-class managers in 7 seasons, in around 10 seasons. That if you fail for one season, that's the end of you. that Abramovich doesn't give you time. And he's chasing this cup, the big years, the Champions League, and I believe he should get his priorities right. That yes, you're chasing the big years, but at least give your coach time to grow that squad that he might have. That there are challenges that they may face at the wrong land, but give them a chance to grow a team, grow the squad, and even face those different games as they come. That do not rush for that end being. Have a structure and a system that directs you to that particular goal you want.
Okay, so both of you agree Chelsea will lose?
Chelsea will lose.
The handshake right there. Moving on now to probably the guys who had the best transfer period of anyone, Liverpool. You know, they brought in a new goalkeeper, world-class goalkeeper. They added the likes of Shaqiri. They brought in Navigator, who was actually who was signed last season. And it's really difficult for me as a United player as a United fan to say this, but I think Liverpool can actually challenge for the title. You know, Liverpool is like that boyfriend who's currently dating your ex, and you have to admit he has a better car than you. He has a bigger house. He's probably more good looking. Do they look like they can go the long haul? They are facing West Ham with Pellegrini, who's won the Premier League before with Manchester City. Klopp hasn't. Will Pellegrini be able to get one over Klopp, or will Klopp take the day?
Liverpool has a good side, yes, I do agree, but then it's the EPL. It's not La Liga, it's not Bundesliga where Bayern Munich you dominate because you have a good side. It's the EPL, it's all about competition. It doesn't matter who you have on your side, it doesn't matter your bench, so they'll face it hard. But West Ham have done some good business as well, and Pellegrini is very experienced in this league, so it might be a draw.
Might be a draw. Yeah. Good for us. Looking at Liverpool and the signings they've made, are they under even more pressure to get a trophy? I mean, Klopp, what excuse will he have this time on if he doesn't win anything? You know, considering a season or so ago when United bought Pogba, he lambasted them, saying that, you know, you're throwing money at a problem when you should bring in the youths. And he's done the same thing with the goalkeepers. You know, Karius messed up. They brought in the world's most expensive goalkeeper. They have the world's most expensive defender. What do you have to say about that?
Funnily enough, you say he's throwing money to a problem. He has been there for many seasons.
This will be his fourth season.
He has 2 squads he bought himself. 2 squads.
2 full squads.
2 full squads. That's a 22-man squad.
He's been to finals, he's lost.
He has lost. What else?
Not only losing against Sevilla.
He has lost every final that he has
ever been in.
Yeah.
So for me, this season he has to prove himself.
He has to prove himself.
He really has to prove himself. He might have an upper advantage over Pellegrini this Saturday. I would give him that he has already been in this league. He only has Keita and this one guy for Jorginho, who might be the guys who might fill in the midfield, but the rest of the squad is a good one. He might have a good upper chance of having a greater chance of Pellegrini this weekend.
Okay. So, draw, win for Liverpool. Well, too bad for you, considering we are coming to your team now, and you're facing the champions. You know, they broke the record last year. World Cup, and then a week later
or 3 days
3 days later, they added another goal to confirm it.
6 in total.
6 in total. 6 without a reply. You know?
Okay. For me, I would say this is a game that judges Unai Emery as a coach, which for me would be very sad to judge a guy in the first game, but that's the place he finds himself.
That's where the PL is with the media.
That's where he finds himself. First game against the champions. I have seen how my team has been playing the full pre-season. I can say I've enjoyed how they have played some of the matches. I would say again, I haven't enjoyed how they play certain matches that he plays. The reason is that he has shifted the playing formation each different game that he has played in the preseason. For me, that's a problem for me. He has to find that working combination he needs to use. And if this 1 week that he has been with the boys, if he hasn't found that one particular tactic to want to use against Manchester City, we are going to lose that match. But as long as he finds the perfect fit, he was at the Community Shield game, hoping he saw what he needs to change and where he needs to work on. He works on that. currently I would want a win from us for us in the first day. It would be a statement for him. It would be a statement for Arsenal Football Club.
And keep in mind that you're facing the two champions in 2 weekends. You're facing Man City, then Chelsea the next weekend.
For Chelsea, I do not have any issues because they also have a new coach.
Yeah.
So for
And
that might be
they
easier.
had a brutal transfer window.
So it might be easier for them.
As a United fan, I'm sure this is a difficult question for you. Who do you think will win against Manchester City and Arsenal? Two teams you hate in equal measure.
2 weeks ago, I thought Arsenal would beat City because City had most of their players playing in the last weekend of the World Cup. But now, looking at their score last weekend, I think City will comfortably beat Arsenal.
And that's bad news for the other teams.
I emphasize comfortably.
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 But will this really say anything about Unai Emery? I mean, it's the first game. Van Gaal lost his first game. No, maybe Van Gaal isn't a good example to use considering he was sacked. But should we really judge him on the first game? Or should we give him a round of game until mid-November, December?
No, November is too far.
Too far?
End of August.
He needs games.
He needs games.
Till Jan.
No, in January is too far.
He's a United fan.
He's
No.
saying anything wrong considering Arsenal is playing. For me, I would give him September.
September.
Second game of September.
Arsenal had a coach for the same coach for 22 years. It's the same thing we had with David Moyes a few years ago. So give him some time. Let's see what he does with the squad because most of the players are players who played under Arsene Wenger. Give him some time. Till Jan.
But you know,
after Jan, if he flops, just fire him.
well,
It should be our joy.
there you have it.
It will be a joy for
Thank you for the panelists and your contributions. I mean, it was very incisive, though at times, you know, there was a bit of favoritism, which is okay, which is accepted, which I like. And you've heard from the panelists and myself as the host. We've talked about the transfers, we moved forward, we talked about the games this weekend and how they might shape up to be in terms of a title race. It's too early to call it yet. By November, December, as Mourinho said today in his conference, we'll know who the real Lions are. Thank you for joining us today. Comment below, tell us whether you liked it, what you wanted to talk about. Tell me your predictions and who do you think will win. And don't forget, let's pray for Mike. His goat is in trouble. Thank you.